Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we are going to be featuring the three teams I used in Ultra League in order to reach expert. This is in order from bottom to top. So the first team was suggested on YouTube, which was Tapu Fini, uh, Shadow Charizard, and Talonflame. And I know what you're thinking, isn't this team going to get destroyed by one electric? The answer is yes, but we will see if we do encounter an electric type. Oftentimes, like Ampharos doesn't actually carry Thunder Punch, usually Volt Switch. So obviously, awful lead here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to Talonflame. We'll see what the opponent's going to do. And they hard counter me into Tapu Fini, which is very bad for me. The good thing about Fly here is that you don't debuff your defense here, which does make it like a little bit harder for Tapu Fini to farm down. So I am going to over farm and then throw the Fly, hoping that my opponent doesn't recognize that I went one extra, so I'll be able to reach this Fly. But we will see what the opponent is going to do. They throw it at perfect timing on their side. Very well done. So I'm going to let this go, and then I'm going to look to farm down with Tapu Fini, praying that they don't make it to the Moonblast, and they try to commit and they don't end up making it. And then I will switch in and throw the Moonblast at the Alolan Muck, which is going to be neutral. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to Charizard, and we will see. Usually they bait. Obviously, if they don't, then I'm in trouble. They actually do end up baiting, and here comes Poliwrath. I will throw the Blast Burn at them. Icy Wind is probably likely enough to KO. I will end up shielding this just because this is quite a bit of health for me to take out with Tapu Fini still, and I would be extremely debuffed by the Poliwrath. So I am going to force this Poliwrath to throw at me. Blast Burn is more energy efficient than... Actually, no, they actually don't throw at me, but I do bring them pretty low, and they go ahead and land the Icy Wind, which does debuff my attack. But unfortunately for them, they are not able to take me out or reach another move, I should say. And I'm going to be able to reach the Moonblast, which is going to be enough to take out this Alolan Muck. So coming back from a absolutely terrible lead in order to win that game was really about energy management there. The Fly was obviously very helpful, and yeah, and they actually didn't. Oh well, they did have an answer to Charizard, but I baited it out with Talonflame, so that worked out pretty nicely for me. And we go into the second match, and we pick up probably one of the worst Pokemon to deal with, and they actually switch out into Obstagoon. Very interesting switch, because this is a favorable matchup for Talonflame. Obviously, they want to avoid the matchup with Tapu Fini, so it makes sense for them to do that. Um, and I will reach another flame charge beforehand. They end up shielding the first one. They actually end up shielding the second one too. So they must be very weak to Tapu Fini in the back. And they actually choose to throw the obstruct here, which is very curious. So now I know my Tapu Fini is pretty safe. I'm not going to shield this because I am triple weak to Tentacruel. So really what I'm going to do here is just going to absorb all the damage from this Obstagoon. We will see if they're going to throw Night Slash or Obstruct. And I look to farm down. And now at this point in time, I'm actually going to switch Charizard to look to get energy advantage because I need 2 Blast Burns to take out this Tentacruel. And the opponent finally realizes that they need to switch here. But this allows me to get to the Blast Burn before the Scald debuff. And I will end up shielding. And I'm just praying that they don't have Acid Spray and no debuff on my side, so the Blast Burn would be enough to take it out. So coming back from 2 really tough poison leads in order to win that game there. They like the core was a little bit too strong for them. So okay, so this is a tricky matchup. Um, kind of want to bait, kind of not want to bait. So they will reach the Scald, and then I'm gonna farm up some, and then it's really I don't know what the right play is here. I am going to basically 100 energy and throw the Moonblast. They will end up shielding. And then I'm going to let this go because I'll survive any move. It is obviously a little problematic for me still. And I will throw the Moonblast and then switch out into Charizard if they decide to shield, which they do end up shielding. I don't know. Throwing this Dragon Claw here was probably dumb because it doesn't KO, but getting the move off before they almost certainly Icy Wind bait me is probably advantageous, so that they're a little bit lower. And they come into Talonflame. And I will throw the Blast Burn at this Talonflame. Even though I'm debuffed, it still does a pretty good amount of damage. And they build up some energy. I'm going to let this go. We'll see what they throw here. They end up throwing the Flame Charge, so I will be able to reach the Blast Burn and take them out. And we will see what they're going to come in with. They come in with Registeel, but I'm in a pretty good spot here. I'd be able to reach 2 Flame Charges. Obviously, they could still make the catch there. But I would also survive a Zap Cannon. I don't know. It still would have been kind of close there. So I probably would have played that out. Taking the first one, maybe try to catch the second one, debuff them. But I would also put them pretty low still. And they come into Registeel. Kind of a tough lead here to deal with. And they come into Giratina. And tough switch in. They do have enough for the Ancient Power. But this is a very difficult switch to win. Because you can see here, 2 Dragon Claws don't KO. So I'm hoping that they bait here. But this person actually just full sends the Ancient Power. And this matchup goes from bad to worse, as you're going to see very soon here. So they're going to go ahead and throw the Ancient Power right before I make it to the Surf. No, the Surf wouldn't have KO'd anyways. And they actually get the boost there, which is really awful for me. So I figure that they're going to shield since they're boosted. And I throw the Surf at them. I don't know here what the appropriate play is. I end up no shielding, hoping that they bait me or something. I will throw the Surf at them because there's no way I'll make it to the Moonblast. And I just need to chip this thing a little bit. I switch out here. But honestly, I should have no shield this. This wasn't enough for the Ancient Power. But they could have made it to the Ancient Power. And they come into Poliwrath here. So I will throw the Fly. The Fly doesn't KO anyways, so this is going to be a pretty rough situation for me anyways. Here I probably should call the bait. Oh, they actually end up scalding me. But I probably should call the bait because this is my only realistic play. And they throw... And this is an Icy Wind. And I get debuffed again. And I throw the Fly. But unfortunately, I will have to throw another Fly at them to take them out. Yes, this is quite bad for me here. I will throw the Fly. And they will... There's not really too much I can do here. And then I switch out, and then I get this a very tough situation for me there. Maybe some play if I throw the Dragon Claw, they straight, and then I try to catch the Ancient Power later. I don't know. I just threw the Slice to see how much it does versus a Registeel. And the answer is not very much. But yeah, tough lead there. So tough lead and then tough switch in. And then tough backline Pokemon. Oh, I ended up going into the wrong league here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this 4th game here. Pick up a really good lead, which is Tapu Fini into Talonflame. And they come into Armored Mewtwo. Very interesting switch in. I probably should have did 1 more Water Gun and then threw. Actually, 2 more Water Guns and threw the move. And I will come into Talonflame. 4 versus 3 is so tricky here. I will let this go. Maybe the Fly would KO here. But I will end up shielding. And then, yeah, this is like not a great situation here. So I will throw the flame charge. We'll see if they shield. I do throw it again. I probably could have survived the confusion and got off the incinerate, but I decided not to. They end up getting a very nice farm down on their side. And I will come into Tapu Fini. I should just barely survive the Brave Bird if they have Brave Bird. And then I'm going to let this go. And then I'm going to switch out immediately if they do Brave Bird. They do end up Brave Birding. Does a lot of damage. And they come into Clefable. And this is totally fine for me. I will throw the Blast Burn right away before they make it to the Moonblast in case they debuff me. I will let this go in case they bait. They need 2 moves to KO. And they do throw the Moonblast. I could potentially take them out with this Blast Burn, but I decide to shield and farm up versus this Clefable. So I will throw at 5, 4, 5, and then I will take them out with this Blast Burn. And I'm a little bit too healthy for their Talonflame to take me out, so I will do 2 and throw the Blast Burn. And I will be able to farm them down from here. The Blast Burn does a tremendous amount of damage, and then I do Wing Attack down and take out the Talonflame. So it worked out pretty nicely for me. Obviously, that was pretty... Well, the Armored Mewtwo was interesting to deal with, so... This next team here is Swampert, normal Swampert, Tentacruel, and Giratina. I will throw the Hydro Cannon. This is a favorable matchup for Mandibuzz since it does double resist the Mud Shots. And they do throw the move here. We'll see if they have Dark Pulse, Foul Play, Shadow Ball. They end up having Dark Pulse. I'm going to throw the Hydro Cannon. And then I will look to let this go. They just need an Aerial Ace after this, so I do expect them to throw the Aerial Ace. I will throw right before they get to it. Maybe I could have caught the move here, but the Swampert is already pretty low, so not worth necessarily saving. They end up throwing right away. I will go into Tentacruel. They will make it to another move because Mandibuzz is quite tanky. And I will let this go. I will farm them down. Unfortunately for me, they have a bubble Jellicent. So this, and then they have Greed in the back, which is obviously not much I can do here. I'm just gonna go ahead and speed through this here. I think I make a catch on the next crunch. So you'll see here, I catch the crunch. Not that this really matters here. And then unfortunately I get debuffed here. And then I will throw a bunch of moves at this Jellicent, but there's not really too much I can do. I will let this go. And then unfortunately for me, they throw the Surf at me and kind of delay my inevitable doom here. And I shield this. So that way I didn't actually lose. I lost due to timeout. So take that as a moral victory. Yeah, this ABA water is pretty interesting. I think Swampert is like pretty decent in the meta. Obviously Poliwrath is kind of tricky for this team. All right, facing a very strong battler. They lead Deoxys. So they end up throwing the Psycho Boost and Bail. It's a technique that I love to do as well. And we'll see what they come in with. And they come into Greedent. I will throw the Hydro Cannon. And it's kind of 3 Hydro Cannons is super close on whether or not it KOs versus the Greedent. So I will throw the Hydro. And then I will throw on CMP. It's so close here. I actually wouldn't shield either because thinking that you would survive, but I was just able to KO. And then the Deoxys is going to come in. I'm assuming it's going to try to counter down. So I will just go for the Earthquake. And take this thing out. And then I will come into Giratina. They will throw the Psycho Boost. And then you'll see what's in the back is a Zygarde here. Oh my goodness. And then I will throw the Dragon Claw. And that does not very much. I try to catch the crunch, but the person is very patient here. They build up to the Earthquake. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not really sure how to play this. I don't want to get EQ'd here. I end up shielding, and I end up getting my defense dropped. This is another crunch, but as you can see, Zygarde is very tanky, but it doesn't do that much damage, especially since it's non-stab crunch. I will throw the Scald at them, hoping to drop the debuff them. No debuff. They do bank a lot of energy here, and actually will let this go. And then I see my win con is pretty straightforward. They will throw the Psycho Boost. I won't shield. I'm just going to look to farm it all the way down. And they will throw the Psycho Boost. And they actually will reach another one. Actually, no, they won't. And I will throw the Dragon Claw. I just need to grab the shield here. And then I'm going to do one and throw the Dragon Claw. And then I have another Dragon Claw, which should be enough to take out the Zygarde. And then I will take them out with this Dragon Claw, and that will be enough to win the game. Man, Zygarde, so tanky. It's like slightly less tanky than Registeel, but tankier than Giratina Altered. I'm not sure what it's comparable to. I guess Registeel is like pretty close. All right, so tough lead here. So I will catch the Scald, or attempt to catch the Scald onto Tentacruel. And they end up throwing the Icy Wind, and they come into Cresselia. And they have Grass Knot. So should be a favorable matchup for them, especially since I'm debuffed. But I'm hoping for the debuff with this Scald. And I do get the attack drop, which is very nice for me. And they throw one before I make it to the Scald. So I made a mental note. That's how they like to play, right? So obviously they're clearly very familiar with the counts on Tentacruel. So what I'm going to do here is they could throw at any point in time here. And I'm going to switch one before I make it to the Scald, because that's how they threw last time. So try to pick up the opponent's tendencies. And unfortunately for me, they come in Mandibus here. This is god-awful. So I will let this go. We'll see if they have Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, or Foul Play. They end up having Foul Play. So I will throw the Dragon Claw. If I had an Ancient Power here, this definitely would be very handy. And I will throw the Dragon Claw again. They already have the next move. They actually throw on Alignment this time. I would survive this, so maybe it was better if I no shielded there. And I'm going to switch. I'm like waiting for their Poliwrath to come back in so I can EQ it. But they end up... And here I should have baited. I definitely should have baited because the resisted Hydro does almost the same as Dragon Claw. They end up no shielding there. And plus they were looking potentially for the debuff here. And here I probably should have no shielded, but it's like so tough here. So I will throw the Earthquake, but I should bait here again. Because you'll see like how close this match ended up being. Or I should have overfarmed one of the two, and they throw right beforehand. They throw the Icy Wind. I will throw the Dragon Claw at this Poliwrath. And they end up lagging there. I probably would have caught the move though. And I throw the Scald. And they come into Cresselia. The Cresselia, I guess I should have maybe farmed more here. I don't know here. Because I guess I could did 7 in thrown, but I would have lost on timeout anyways, right? So I will throw the Shadow Sneak. And then I will attempt to throw the Dragon Claw, but this Poliwrath is way too healthy for me to deal with. We'll throw the Dragon Claw, but it is not enough here. If I would have baited there, then actually would have had more health uh, in the end game there. So, uh, even though I made some nice plays there, that bait, no bait decision making was very poor on my side. So, this is a good lead for me. Giratina also handles it pretty okay, and they try to catch on Cress. I did go over 100, just barely, because I was trying to decide how to play this. I will throw the Hydro Cannon, and then I will bank the EQ. I go to Tentacruel because Tentacruel has the worst match versus Registeel, and they actually end up having Future Sight here, which does a tremendous amount of damage, does in one shot. And then they'll have to reveal to me if they have Moonblast or Grass Knot as their second move, or I guess Aurora. I'm getting the debuff there, which is super nice for me. I will let this go. I don't necessarily need Switch. This would be very helpful. Come into Giratina, and I'm not so fearful of this Cresselia. They actually will come back into Registeel. This actually works out much better for me that they decide to throw here. And then I will switch into Swampert. I will throw the Earthquake. And then I know that they have a Grass Knot on Cress. I could have thrown beforehand, but I'm going to let this go. And then I will end up throwing the Hydro Cannon. No bubble, so I get a little bit more farm down. And this puts me almost at double Hydro. The Hydro Cannon will be enough to take out the Cresselia because it is pretty low. If they lag there, I'm going to switch to Giratina. But they don't, so I will shield this. And then I know that they're pretty low on energy, so I will throw on CMP and look to take out this Cresselia. They actually end up shielding, so I will shield. And then my plan here is that I figure that they're pretty weak to it, so I actually will bank the EQ, then throw the Dragon Claw at this Cresselia. And then they have Talonflame here, so I'm going to throw at 7. And then, and the timing here was like everything for me. So I will do 2 and throw the Dragon Claw. Good timing allows me here to be consistent with my charge move damage. And as you can see here, the Brave Bird actually just barely doesn't KO. But because I'm only 1 Shadow Claw off, I'm going to be able to make it to the move here. And if I would have been 2 off, then it would have been kind of iffy. I would have got this Dragon Claw off, and then they would have been able to beat me. Actually, I don't know who wins CMP, Swampert or Talonflame. I'm assuming Talonflame, but worked out pretty okay for me there. And we have Swampert into Galvantula. So I will throw the Hydro Cannon at them before they debuff me. This thing does have access to Energy Ball. Is it likely that they're carrying Energy Ball? It's probably unlikely, but I really can't. I don't know if I can't risk it. I will. So we'll throw it 3. They end up letting go, and I will switch and catch the move here. If it's Energy Ball, that's great. I think it ends up being a lunge. And they are going to bank a move, and they'll come into Guzzlord. Try to throw a good timing. It's always difficult on the switch in. And then I will throw the Dragon Claw. Still does a pretty nice chunk of damage. And they do have to throw the Crunch at me. Otherwise, I would survive the Dragon Claw. And they realize that. And I'm going to come into Tentacruel. The timing would look really weird there, but that's okay. They do end up getting the defense drop. And they come into Gligar. They actually end up shielding this, which is fortunate for me. I will throw and I get the attack drop too, which is really nice for me. I will throw the Hydro, not enough to KO. And this is either Air Lace or Night Slash. I could have thrown on CMP and probably won the CMP there, but I'm just going to double up here. And then I will just throw the Hydro Cannon at whatever comes in. If it's the Guzzlord, that's fine. If it's the Galvantula, that's fine too. And then I'm going to try to catch the lunge. They end up throwing the discharge here, but this is totally fine for me. I'm going to be able to mud shot down before they make it to the move and win the game there. So it worked out pretty nicely for me, obviously a very positive lead. So we end up going 3-2 in that set. And then we have the last team here, which is Shadow Swampert, double Shadow Clawlers. It seems like Golisopod was super popular last season, but now has fallen out of the meta. And we see Shadow Swampert into Gliscor. This is a good lead for me. And they come into Steelix. So again, tip here, if they come into Pokemon, you want to do one, basically what you would normally throw in alignment. So, and they actually throw I was very confused here. They threw a Psychic Fang. So I will switch out into Golisopod. Or actually bank the move first, then come into Golisopod. And then I'm going to let this go. And then I'm going to look to farm down. And I will throw the Liquidation. I always mix up Liquidation and Scald in terms of the debuff. No debuff there. I guess I could have just thrown the Aerial Ace, to be honest. It probably would have been enough. Yeah, it definitely would have been enough. And I would have made it to 2 Aerial Aces there, which would have been better for me. Because they're going to just switch out anyways. I'm just going to throw the Hydro Cannon right away. And then I'm going to no-shield this Swampert. Because I know they're going to throw the move there. They have to throw the EQ. The Night Slash or Aerial Ace is not enough. And then they will throw here. And then I'm going to switch. And they actually end up getting the boost. So I will shield. They throw the Night Slash. And I'm able to Shadow Claw down. And the opponent decides to leave the match. So maybe Poliwrath. Poliwrath makes a lot of sense. And as you can see here, the Q times were awful here. Swampert into Poliwrath. Tough lead here. So I will come into Golisopod right away. And then I will throw the Liquidation. Very tough lead here. No debuff. I will shield. I don't know if this really makes that much sense to shield. And they get the debuff, which is very bad for me. Yeah, but thankfully I get the defense drop debuff in return. I should have thrown beforehand. Because I get debuffed again. Oh man, so terrible for me. I will throw the Liquidation. They end up no shielding. And they come back into Poliwrath. And we'll see what they decide to throw here. They throw the Icy Wind. I will bait them. Because the debuff Earthquake would still do quite a bit. And they have 2 shields. They actually end up no shielding there. So I actually will throw the Earthquake. And they actually throw on alignment here. And I will let this go. Well, obviously I have to let go. I have no shields. They throw the Icy Wind. And then I'm going to look to Shadow Claw all the way down. And unfortunately for me, they come into Talonflame. I was really hoping to catch the move here. And yeah, this is game over for me. Very tough backline and team for me. So nicely played by them. As you can see, the queue times are quite long here. And we're going to have Swampert into G-Fisk. This is a good lead for me. And they come into Mandibuzz. And it's actually Air Slash Mandibuzz. So again, when they come in, you want to basically throw what you would normally throw in alignment. So in this case, I did 6 mud shots because they did take 1 turn to switch. Maybe I should shield this. If I end up deciding not to, then I end up throwing the foul play. 3, 4. They let this go. I will shield this. And then I'll do 1 and throw the Hydro. And then I'm going to look to Mud Shot down. And I Mud Shot down. And then I'm immediately going to switch to Golisopod. And they come into Jellicent. And they come into G-Fist. I will throw the Liquidation. And then you'll see here I make a very calculated play. No debuff. That's fine. I'm going to let go. And then I'm going to throw an alignment versus this, or throw on CMP. And then I know the next Rock Slide KOs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to undercharge this because I need energy on Trev. And I know that they don't want to undercharge because if I Shadow Claw down and make it to Aerial Ace, it's going to be damage onto the Jellicent. And I don't wait the clock here. They will reach a Rock Slide, which is totally fine for me because the Shadow Ball would KO anyways. And I'm 1 Mud Shot off the Earthquake. So I just need to land 1 bait on this Jellicent. And then after that, I don't need to bait because the Shadow Claw damage is going to do enough to put them into EQ range. I will shield this. Even if they bait me, I will be able to reach the Shadow Ball. And they have to throw the Shadow Ball at me. And they really can't overfarm that much. And they end up throwing right away, thinking that they can survive the move or that my Swamper's low enough. And here I get like a little bit of like frame drop lag there, but it doesn't really matter here. I make it to the Earthquake, and the Earthquake is going to be enough to take out the Jellicent. The Earthquake does like 50 something percent. But really the game winning play there was the undercharge versus the G-Fist on CMP. And that worked out pretty. I think that was a pretty nice play. I'm not gonna. And as you can see here, lots of queue times here as I'm waiting for a match here. So this is a very good lead here. I will throw the Earthquake at them. Would do quite a bit of damage. They decide not to throw the Scald. So I will farm up a little bit here. And I try to make a catch here. And they come into Snarl, Mandibuzz. And very fortunate for me that I get the debuff. And I think they threw an alignment there because I think I snuck a Shadow Claw. And here they have a ton of energy. But I guess they want to leave with a move. So they choose to double up. And then I get the defense fall again and actually reach the liquidation. And because of those 2 defense falls, I'm actually able to take out the Mandibuzz, which worked out really, really nicely for me. And they come into Tentacruel. Unless they Acid Spray or Sludge Wave me, I resist everything. They end up throwing the Scald. And I switch out into Trevenant. This is enough for the Blizzard. But really, I should have thrown the Shadow Ball because they get the attack fall here. I really should have thrown the Shadow Ball beforehand. I'm going to let this go. And this is pretty awful for me. I really should have thrown the Shadow Ball beforehand. I called the bait there. They had enough for the Blizzard. And unfortunately for me, they will have enough energy here. I will shield. And they come into Swampert. And then I will throw the Seed Bomb. I actually expect them not to shield this because I'm twice debuffed. And it doesn't really matter here because I have the Seed Bomb banked. And as long as the clock is not elapsed here, and this Hydro is going to be enough here, but I can just go back, or they actually could throw the EQ. Maybe the Hydro actually wouldn't have been enough there. Would have been pretty close, but if they didn't, then I would have landed the Hydro. And then I'm going to be able to Shadow Claw down and take this thing out, the Tentacruel out. So the Mandibuzz is obviously very tricky to deal with. And we come into Greedent, and I just pray that they don't have Trailblaze. Would do a tremendous amount of damage. Then I'm throwing the Body Slam. And then here is where you pick up cues on how your opponent likes to play. So here they have the body slam and they choose to throw it right away. So I'm like, oh, interesting. So what I'm going to do here is actually I'm going to do 3 mud shots and then throw the hydro cannon. And I know they like to throw right away. So I'm actually going to switch to Trev and catch the body slam. So again, kind of like read how your opponent likes to play, the tendencies, and then make adjustments from there. And they come into Poliwrath. Very interesting lead here. And I throw on CMP with the Seed Bomb. I would survive the Icy Wind, but it would do quite a bit of damage, so will end up shielding. And then I will throw on alignment again versus the Icy Wind, which in this case is 6 on the second one. And then I will let this go. And the opponent is quite patient here, but unfortunately for them, I'm a little bit too close to the move, so I tried to catch the Icy Wind onto my Swampert. I could have caught on Golisopod, but I thought it would be a little bit too dangerous to do it that way. And I wait the clock here. Maybe I should have went Golisopod here first in case I get debuffed. I decided to come into Trev and throw the Shadow Ball to do a pretty good amount of damage. And they do still have the Greedent, but I probably should have went Golisopod first, taking the damage from the Tentacruel, especially if they have Acid Spray, I guess, or Sludge Wave or something. I don't know. I will throw the Aerial Ace, which is not going to be enough. And the Poliwrath is very low. Or I don't know here. I guess I let this go. Doesn't really matter here. They will come into Poliwrath. I just need to throw right away versus this Poliwrath. Because the counters would do more than the mud shots. And the Tentacruel is very low. But I like this play by them because they get the debuff. And then all I need to do here is just take out this Greedent right away. Because I think it's like 1 Shadow Claw to take out the Tentacruel. So really no point in taking additional damage. Or letting them get to the Body Slam. And then I will actually end up being 2. It ended up being really close there. It's a really well played game on their side, but it worked out pretty nicely for me. So those are the 3 teams that I used. I guess I can show me hitting expert here. Oh, okay. All right, we hit expert there. Anyways, hopefully you found these battles interesting, entertaining, and you get to try out some of these teams. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.